Hey, what is up? It is your dear friend and teacher Mike here. If you don't know me, I'm the owner and one of the teachers at ExpressPrep.ca, where we help immigrants just like you pass the CELPIP exam and also improve your English for your life as an immigrant. What we're going to do in this video is something that students have been asking me for a very long time, which is to show a complete speaking test of CELPIP and what it looks like to have a maximum score. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the test in front of you and you're going to see exactly what a maximum score looks like. So let's get started. I'm gonna read the question for you and we are going to get right into it. Question number 1, speaking task 1. A classmate is not doing well in math class and has received several low grades. If this continues, he will not be able to pass the final exam. Give your classmate advice on what he should or should not do if he would like to improve his grades. So on this task, I have to give advice and I have to give good advice on what he should or shouldn't do. So check it out, what a max score is. Hey John, I've heard you need some help with your math grades, and if this continues, you will not pass your final exam. So here are some ideas for you. So first of all, I definitely recommend that you just focus more in class. I have noticed over the past few weeks that you have been paying little attention, and even Mrs. Puckno complained that to you in front of the whole class. So immediately, what you can do to improve right now is just to pay more attention, do more exercises, and stop playing with your phone during class. Second, why don't you talk to June, our friend, who is a very good student of math? He can definitely help you out and would probably help you improve your grades immediately. He's been scoring A+ over the whole program. Last thing that I recommend that you definitely don't do is you need to stop partying. Over the last few months, you've been partying every weekend, and that has definitely been distracting you from your goal. So if you really want to pass your final exam, you really need to pay attention to this idea. So don't forget, remember, just focus more in class or have someone to help you, so either June or maybe hire a private tutor. And lastly, just stop partying so much. I hope these ideas help you out and let me know how you go on your final exam. That was task number 1. So as you can see, there's a whole structure which we follow, and of course, that's something that if you're my student, you already know how to do. Let's go and do task number 2. Talk about a time when something did not happen the way you first expected. Maybe you can talk about something that did not happen according to plan when you were working on a project, when you were trying to accomplish something. At first, how did you expect things to happen? How did they actually happen? And what was your response? So in this, I have to use the past, right? So I'm going to show you now. I'm going to talk about a time when I was working on a project at school and things turned out way differently than I expected. So initially, this was about a few years ago when I was still in college in Canada. We had this group project in our course of accounting, Introduction to Accounting, and we needed to do a group project together where every single student had their own part to do. I ended up doing my part very quickly, and I expected every other student to do the same. But what actually happened is that as we got closer to the deadline, I noticed that 2 of my classmates had not done any of their work. What I had to do instead of just waiting for them to finish, I just had to cover for them. So my response was to actually do everything I could in my power to solve the problem at hand. And that's how I did it. So there's very important things here that you have to do. And the most important thing is that you have to answer the last 3 questions that are right there for you. Describe some things that are happening in the picture below as well as you can. The person with whom you are speaking cannot see the picture. So this is very important. What people don't understand about this task is I have to talk about what is happening. So I need to use the ing. And I also need to talk about the things in a way that the person with whom I'm speaking cannot see the picture. So I have to explain things in a way that you understand it, even if you don't see it. So let me show you. This is a picture of a busy intersection where you can see a park on the bottom left part of the picture, and you can see a sidewalk on the upper part of the picture. There are some different locations, such as a Bank of Canada, a market, and a coffee shop, and there are 3 different crosswalks in this intersection. Now, At the bottom left part of the picture, you can see a child and her dad trying to grab a balloon that got stuck in a tree. Right beside them, you can see a dad or a mom that is running after their children because the child is actually running across the crosswalk trying to grab a basketball. Across the street, on the sidewalk in front of the different locations, you can see a person that is walking her dog, and that's it. So on this question per se, you don't necessarily need to finish your speaking. What I suggest to my students is that if they feel like they can finish depending on how much they are speaking, then that's great. But if they feel like they cannot finish and they just get cut like I did right now, that's perfect as well, as long as you're explaining things that are happening as well as you can. So notice how, maybe I didn't talk about this couple, but I explained everything I could the best that I could. And as long as the examiners see that you're doing that and you have some fluency and good vocabulary, examiners will be more than okay with your speaking. Next one. So if I am prepared for the CELPIP exam, I know that the next task is a picture that is the same as the one I just did. If I know that, then I know that all I gotta do is to describe what's gonna happen next. In this part of the exam, what examiners want to see if I can use future expressions to describe something that I think will probably happen, will likely happen. It means that maybe I'm not sure, I think it will happen. Check it out. What I think is probably going to happen next is the elderly couple who's right in front of the fruit market. They are probably going to cross the street and go walk into the park. The father or mother that is running after their child, they're going to grab their child by the hand and they're going to complain at them because they are going to tell their children that they shouldn't be running across the street without looking both ways. The couple who's right in front of the picture will finish drinking their tea and will probably walk and sit on the park in a nice location. The dad and the daughter that are trying to grab a balloon will try to grab the balloon, but probably the balloon will pop because the tree is very pointy. There you go. So as you can see, I'm describing most things the best I can, but in this case, I am talking about what's probably going to happen next. I'm using future expressions such as will and going to. I can do many different things here, and in this video for you guys, I'm using mostly will and going to. But when I teach this, I usually tell my students that they should use may, might in different locations, and they also can use different words such as likely, probably, it looks like. Those are all ways in which you can use to improve your score here. I'm just doing it here in a simple way because this is a YouTube video and I want to keep it simple for you guys. Now this task has lots of different techniques so that you can make it better. I'm just going to click next here and I will follow my own technique here. Your company is planning to move to a new office soon and your boss has asked you to help find a new location. You find two suitable options. Using the pictures and information below, choose the option that you prefer. In the next section, you will need to persuade your boss that your choice is the better choice. If you do not choose an option, the computer will choose one for you. You do not need to speak for this part. So I have to choose an option and make a comparison and describe to my boss why this new office is the best for us. So I'm going to just select this one here. I'm going to think about these things here. So built in 12,000 square feet, the rent is $15,000 per month and it's close to bus and transit stations. So now I'm going to have an extra 60 seconds. As you guys can see here, as soon as this timer is over, we're going to have an extra 60 seconds to think about what we're going to say here. So let's let the timer go by right now. So now we have the outside the city office, which was built in 1930. It's 6,000 square feet. The rent is cheaper. So as you can see here, 8,000 versus 15,000. And it's a 2-hour drive from the city, while this one is close to the bus and train station. So I'm going to have to compare those two things and I have to convince my boss. So there's a whole structure for me to do this. But the most important thing that the examiners are looking at is, can I use the grammar structure of comparisons? That's the most important thing here. So let's wait for the timer to go and I will show you guys exactly how we can use the structure of comparisons to get a very high score here. Hey, John, I understand that you prefer the outside the city office. However, I believe that the downtown business center would be ideal for our company. So first of all, my option is much newer than yours. It was built in 2012, while your idea of an office was built in the 1930s. That would require probably a lot more maintenance and repairs than we would like to spend. Now, at the same time, we have a growing workforce, so we need a larger space. I don't think that 6,000 square feet, which is what your idea has, would be enough to accommodate all of our employees. Now, I understand that the outside the city office is much cheaper at only $8,000 per month, but a larger space closer to bus and train stations would be beneficial to all of our employees. So that's why I believe the downtown business center is the best option for us. So as long as you're able to cover the whole points, comparing and contrasting, you will be able to get a good score. What we want to do here, and again, I'm making it very simple for you guys because when I do this with my students, we learn some different techniques to compare and contrast in higher levels. What you need to do is you need to go through the details of built here, in this case, built, the size, the rent, and the location. If I go through these three things, I'm going to be able to get an awesome score as long as I keep my fluency high, my vocabulary high, and I make sense of what I'm saying. All right, so let's check test number 6. Your child's school has asked you to help with a class field trip. Your friend bought you tickets to a baseball game for the same day. The school will cancel the field trip if there are not enough parents, but your friend will be upset if you cannot go to the baseball game because the tickets were expensive. So in this case, I have a situation where I have to decide who am I going to talk to, and they're going to get mad at me. So either I talk to the school and I explain why I cannot help with the field trip, or I talk to my friend and explain why I cannot attend the game, right? So in this case, I'm going to talk to the school and I'm going to explain why I cannot help with the field trip. And I'm going to show you guys my exact strategy to do this in the right way. I start with an introduction. I give 2 reasons. I give a suggestion and then I close, right? So let me show you. Hey, Principal Devin, look, I know that you have asked me to help with the class trip. Unfortunately, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do it. So first of all, I have received tickets for the Blue Jays game, and they are right in the VIP section on that same day. Now, had you told me before that the field trip would happen, I would gladly be able to accept it. But right now, as it is in a very short notice, I won't be able to cancel the game anymore. Second, this has been a gift from a good friend of mine, and he would be very disappointed had I not accepted his invitation. And as I've been helping the school over and over again, I believe that this time would be okay. Now, why don't we change the field trip day for another occasion where I can definitely help? So in this case, what I do is I make a change. I suggest that we change the class field trip to another day if they happen to not have anyone to help, right? So what I do is I have my introduction, I have my 2 suggestions, my 2 reasons, and then I have a suggestion. If I have time, I close. If I don't have time because I spoke too much, then I don't need to close. But the most important thing is that I give my 2 reasons and I make my suggestion. That's the most important thing here. Now, task 7 is one of my favorites, which is where you have to give a whole reasoning for your arguments. The way that I teach my students here is we learn how to create a good argument because that's what the examiners are looking for. So let's read this. Do you think all university students should study abroad for a year? If there is sufficient funding, explain your reasons. So I'm going to say yes, right? And I'm going to find 3 good reasons. So experience, acceptance of different cultures, knowledge. Okay. In my opinion, all university students should definitely go in an exchange program for a year if that funding is possible. So first of all, going into another culture to work or study for a year is always beneficial in order to increase cultural awareness of students. Anyone who stays too long in the same place will always be biased toward their own culture, background, and experience. If students visit many different countries, or at least just one, they will be already more open to interacting with different people. Second, just because of job experience. Even studying abroad at any location will give you a perspective of that market that is much different than the one that you would have in your hometown. So for example, visiting India when you are from Chile or when you are from America, it will give you a different idea of how the markets work in a very different environment. Lastly, because of pay and improving students' salaries in the future, it is normal and expected that people with more experience abroad will usually receive more as their pay when they get into the job market. So, for these reasons, going into abroad experiences as a university student is definitely recommended. So there you guys have it. What I have here is a structure that I have an introduction, 3 arguments, and a closing. Ideally, when I create those arguments, I want to have 3 things in each argument, which is a good point, reason, and an example of it. When I notice that because I'm speaking too much or I'm speaking too little, I can fit more or less examples into my argument. But as long as I can have good, solid fundamentals to my arguments, I can have a good score here. If you are my student, of course, I'm going to push you to have more examples. But if you're just watching this video and you can follow this, you can still get an awesome score. Last question of the CELPIP exam is always a weird picture. All they're looking for here is your vocabulary. You have to describe this picture, but the most important thing is you have to call someone for a specific reason. So in this case, you see a group of people playing a sport, call your friend Betty and describe what the sport is like and what they're doing. Ask if she would be interested in trying this sport sometime. So check it out. Hey Betty, I'm here by the pool at the recreation center and I'm looking at this new sport that I have never seen before. I think you're gonna love it. So it looks like a sport where you have to retrieve a puck from the bottom of the pool. So it looks to be played in a team of 2, and they are using some spoon-like instrument to go to the bottom of the pool and grab this puck and retrieve it. I'm not sure if they need to score a goal or something, but they just need to retrieve it. They're all wearing appropriate swimwear, including snorkels, so that they can probably go underwater quickly. Now, this seems like a very interesting sport. It needs to be played in the pool, of course. They're all underwater, but it does look very fun. So I'm interested to know, would you like to try this sport sometime? And that is a 11-12 speaking of the CELPIP test. So I've done this in one sitting and I just quickly went through the questions here with you. There are more things and details that go into each question that, of course, I cannot share in just one video. This is, of course, something I teach all of my students. If you are interested in becoming a student and understanding what are all the details that go into each question that create a very high score, a 10, 11, or 12 high score, all you got to do is click the link in the description so that you message one of my student advisors, and they're going to give you all the information on how you can study with us so that we can show you how you can get this type of speaking. When I'm doing this, my level of speaking is not important. What is important is, am I following the right techniques to get a very high score here? So if you enjoyed this video and you want to become my student, click the link in the description. But if you just like this video and you want to enjoy more videos like this, just make sure you click the like button, share this with a friend, and subscribe, of course. I hope you really enjoyed this. This was a very fun video to make for you. Hopefully you learn exactly how a high level score on speaking works. Let me know if you have any questions, put them here in the comments, and I will see you in our next video. From your dear friend and teacher, Mike.